Make sure you check out our online store where we work with our graphic designer to create stunning garment and product designs that feature a wide variety of aircraft types such as British fighters, World War II aircraft, American bombers, Russian fighters and much more. You can pick your favourite designs and personalise any items within our Redbubble store that range from clothing right the way through to stationery. All of our designs feature our logo so you can show your support for the channel while getting a quality product. You can head to our website aircrewinterview.tv and click store, or go to redbubble.com/people/AC interview. Thank you and enjoy. So with former Tornado GR4 pilot Mandy Hickson for an episode of Tornado Tales. So Mandy, I think you have a story to share with us.
I would love to share a story with you. As you know, Mike, I love my storytelling. I was thinking about a different story to share, one that perhaps some of your amazing listeners won't have heard. And I was going to share a story, actually, was when we went out to Red Flag. And we headed out on an exciting to America, Las Vegas, just outside Las Vegas, Nellis Air Force Base. And we were on a fantastic exercise. And I was put to fly with a really senior navigator, Michel Dupont. Now, I was really thrilled to be with Michel because he's a really good-looking bloke. Can I say that? I'm allowed to, for goodness sake.
Of course.
Tornado Tales.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was brilliant being with Michel for many different reasons. One was that he was really senior, so he had a lot of experience. And also you've got, somebody that's got this wealth of experience just sitting behind you, and it really helps your learning because it's a really steep learning curve out there. And we were out there and we were all going out for dinner one evening. Not an intimate setting, sadly. It was the whole squadron. And basically, I got dressed up for the occasion. So I was wearing this dress and lipstick. So this is like me going to town, I tell you. And it was going to be sort of one of the first times that the guys on the squadron would have seen me dressed up, not in my flying suit. And so I'd made a bit of an effort. Anyway, I arrived a couple of minutes late and I walk into the foyer of this really busy hotel foyer and I cough loudly so that everyone looked up. But Michel and my eyes met across this crowded room and he said, "Oh, Mandy, you're looking beautiful this evening." At which point, by the way, he was French. He's not from Birmingham. My accents are really rubbish. At which point, this guy next to him literally smacked him across the head and went, "You can't say that to Mandy. She's one of the boys." And Michel, he turned back this wonderful Gaelic shrug and he just went, "Puh, you Brits, you still have so much to learn about women." And it was this really interesting point because I think I'd been desperately trying to be one of the boys. And at that point, I realised I had to probably be more myself. But we had the most incredible flying out there. I mean, their philosophy is you're going to train harder than you're ever going to have to fight for real. And it's a really great opportunity of working with lots of different teams, coalitions from all over the world. And then on the way back, we were tasked to bring the jets home and we would be doing tanking, air-to-air tanking. And we were a four-ship of aircraft. We took off from Nellis. We flew across to Savannah in Georgia, where we had a fun time. Then we flew from there up to sorry, no, we didn't do that. That was the first time. Sorry, there were two different times. But on this second time, we flew across and we basically went to Bangor in Maine. And then from Maine, we went across to the Azores, where we were met by all the fantastic air-to-air refueling crew. And we got out the aircraft and they all said, "Come on over to ours. We've got cups of tea ready for you." And I was like, "Oh, that's really sweet of them. How lovely." I don't know if you heard of this sort of tradition before. And you go into the back seat of the back of the aircraft, which is all quite empty, actually, because it's for the tanking fit. And they've got all these big pots, these big silver urns, that you would get at a rugby match, you get your cup of tea from. I went to pour and it was like white. I said, "Guys, this is white. Well, this is not tea." And they said, "Just taste it, mans. It's gin and tonic."
Oh.
And then it's like Pimm's or something like that. And we were like, "Oh, yes." I mean, this was really early doors. So it was just really lovely. They welcome you over and they gave you some food and they gave you a gin and tonic. So that was really nice. And then the next day we didn't hang one on, I just want to say. So you just had a couple, and then we were all in bed by about 7 o'clock because we were knackered. And then the following day we were flying from Largers back to Marham, and we hit this really, really thick cloud. It was really turbulent, and we were absolutely immersed in this cloud. And the pressure's quite immense at that point. And it was so thick, I was literally just looking at this one strobe next to me and it's flashing and I'm staring at it. And if you've ever been so focused on something where you realise you've stopped blinking and you actually have to hear, I used to do this when I used to play computer games like Auric Munch or something on my Auric computer. Anyway, I was so fixated on this one strobe. I had tears pouring down my face, my shoulders were all locked in position. And as I'm looking at it, we then hear this really chilling radio call, and it was that America had shut their airspace. And it was this horrible moment where you almost couldn't process the information because there'd been no situation in history whereby that had happened before. And suddenly we're hearing of a continent shutting down. Now, the one thing that we use a really good mantra, actually, and it's something I've used a lot, but it's that whole thing about controlling what we can control. So control the controllables, and if you can't, like, let it go. And it sits well with me, actually, because I started to use it a lot, actually, in my speaking, is that when we feel that stress bucket filling up, it often fills up with a load of other stuff that's out of our control. It could be the energy crisis, Ukraine conflict. And by the time we get to work, we've got this much capacity. Now, all of that's outside of your control, and yet it stresses us out. So try to empty your bucket to just focus on what you can control. Then ultimately it gives you that perspective. It gives you that what is within your sphere of influence. And we realised that we had no idea what was happening in America, but we were in thick cloud. There was chaos on the airwaves. Aircraft were being diverted and turned back. And we thought we've actually got a huge risk now of a mid-air collision. So we just started to scan our airspace using the air-to-air radars just to clear our passageway through it. And when we get over to the UK, we then hear another radio call from an American ship. It was a big aircraft carrier, and it was just off the south coast. And there's about a 5 nautical mile exclusion zone around that ship. But unfortunately, a small little propeller aircraft doing a bit of VFR, flying along the south coast, hadn't read about the NOTAMs that day. It was flying directly towards the ship, and the Americans believed it was a terrorist. We heard on guard on the emergency frequency was that they were loading live weapons and they were about to shoot this aircraft down. Now, we're in transit and we're just flying along, happily minding our own business, thinking something horrible's happened, but we don't know what. And then we hear this radio message coming through on the guard frequency. And we realised that whoever it was actually meant for was not monitoring the frequency. They were not listening out on guard. And we realised that we potentially could do something about it because we were probably the nearest airborne assets. And so we asked air traffic control, can we help? And they actually said, oh my goodness, yes, please. Now, this was sort of before we had like high states of alert going on all the time, and actually it was so out of the blue that we were then diverted down from height and we literally dived down towards this aircraft. And we were all the time trying to reach him on the emergency frequency. Unfortunately, just before we got there, we did get through on the emergency frequency, got him to divert his course. He had a matter of minutes to run, though.
Wow. And
it was like, my goodness, we landed at Marham, and I'll never, ever forget this moment. It's a really happy story, isn't it? Happy Christmas!
Happy Christmas, everyone!
Happy Christmas! Yeah. And we walked in, and it was one of those moments where we walk in and we see the television. We just saw the Twin Towers coming down, and we were just like, oh my gosh! And we felt like we'd really been part of that. And I know everyone has that moment where they can remember what they were doing at 9/11, and it's a bit like what they were doing when someone landed on the moon. But this was a really, like, we felt we'd been really part of it, and there was this really chilling silence. I think we even forgot to sort of sign the jets in, as everyone was just spellbound watching what was going on. But yeah, that was quite a pivotal moment, really, because then of course things ramped up quite a lot on our states of alert, and then we headed back out to Iraq.
Crikey. And did you actually hear back from the carrier or the pilots or the crew in that light aircraft?
No, it all just got missed in the whole chaos of what was going on. But I mean, I have no doubt that they would have been shot down because the Americans were now on the highest state of alert and they did believe it was a terrorist. So I just think, thank goodness, that nothing further happened.
And how far were you from that aircraft when you were?
We were probably, I don't know, 40 miles away. Not that far at all,
so
actually.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we dived down. We were almost over, sort of coming in from the Cornwall end, basically at height, when we sort of heard this building, and you could really hear in the stress in this radio opera going, could the aircraft that is heading down, and he's like, oh, and he was almost like in disbelief himself, sort of on the radio saying, we are loading live weapons. We will shoot you down. It's like, what the hell? We're in, it's now September's afternoon. So it was this whole like mismatch of what we knew from before to what we knew then.
So almost like lucky you were kind of in that area to kind of diffuse the situation.
Absolutely. We were very lucky indeed.
I mean, what a story. What a Christmas story, everyone. But
Very happy Christmas story. I want to just say before we carry on, I am in Christmas mode. Oh, yes. That was done just for you all. Just to make you feel very, very festive.
Well, brilliant. Thanks for sharing that story, Mandy. But yeah, so what's been your 2022 year been like, and what you up to next year?
Oh, there's been highs and lows for me. I've had a really, probably the most successful year I've ever had work-wise. I have been flat out. Normally I get really quiet periods, and sort of May, June and July, August are normally much quieter for me. It was not like that at all. I was literally fully booked. I think September I did 28 events in 8 countries. Literally, I didn't know if I was coming or going. I was just like, where am I today? Oh, I'm in Budapest. Oh, how lovely. Tomorrow, Vienna. So it was really good. I love it. I mean, I tend to thrive off energy, off being busy. So I do love that. One of my highlights was meeting Tom Cruise.
Of course.
I just put that out there. You know, I saw this small man. He was running through the crowds at Fairford Air Show, and he had a copy of my book in his hand. He was like, Mandy, will you sign it? No, okay, it didn't happen like that. No. Okay, did not happen like that. I am lying. Yes, no, basically, my friend Jo Salter was hosting him at Fairford. I was like, whatever you do, you owe me big time, because she'd basically, anyway, there's a long story behind it, but she owed me. I said, you have got to get a photo of Tom Cruise holding my book. And so I'd signed this copy for him, and I'd given it to her. And I was like, Jo, if you're hosting him, you just got to get it in his hands. She was like, yeah, leave it with me. And then they were in we were in the patrons tent, and I'd been helping out doing a lot of the STEM work, and in the techno zone I'd been talking to like 7,000 youngsters on the Friday. So I was invited in as a thank you to the patrons area, and I'd gone in, and Mike Wigston was in there, and he said, he was hosting with Tom Cruise. He said, Mandy, leap over the barrier and come and see her. I was like, yes, I made it in life. And then Jo went, get your book. It's sitting over there. So I basically went and got the book, and there's some hilarious pictures, because basically you've got these ones that I took, which was me doing a selfie with Tom. So if you can imagine, Tom's up to here on me. And so I'm doing a selfie, but he on the picture is taller than me.
Yeah.
And what I did was I lunged at him. I lunged to make myself smaller. How embarrassing is that? So basically, if anyone else was taking the other photo, it would be me lunging at Tom. But it was lovely, because then Mike Wigston picked through the book going, look, this is me in Iraq with Mandy. Oh, gosh, you're a hero. But I was like, yeah, I don't really like to think of that.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I just sound a bit giddy, don't I, when I talk about it? Yeah, so that was one of my highlights. Yeah, sadly lost quite a few family members this year, which has been a real low point. So that's been really sad. But yeah, I just feel that 2023, as 22 closes, I feel that 23 is a new start, new sort of fresh new outlook. And I've got some real highs coming up as well for 23.
Brilliant stuff, Mandy. But yeah, where can our viewers find you online? Are you on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff?
I'm on all of them, Mike. I'm basically everywhere. No, on Twitter, I think I'm... Oh, gosh, you'll probably tag me in. On Twitter, I think I'm just Mandy Hickson. On Instagram, I'm Mandy Hickson Speaker. I'm on LinkedIn as Mandy Hickson. I have my own website, which is, I'm going to shock you here, mandyhickson.com.
Wow.
So yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch, ask me any questions, I always try to make myself as amenable as possible, and I nearly always try to come back to people as quickly as I can.
Brilliant stuff. And we'll link all Mandy's links in the description below, but if you can't find her, just basically look for her Mandy and Tom Cruise picture as their profile. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, what can I say?
Well, Mandy, thank you very much for coming on the show, and yeah, I'm wishing you and the family a happy Christmas.
A very happy Christmas to one and all, and you as well, Mike. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.